Hi, I'm your host for Hardtime.info. You may remember me from many of those crime and true crime shows on cable TV, but I'm here to help you understand some things about tickets. Having been a police officer at one time, I know when I made a stop, I was going to give a ticket. I've heard lawyers and I've listened to a lot of people online say, this is how you get out of a ticket. And I'll have to tell you that I always went to court and I always won. Why? Because I had documented the things that needed to be documented. And I want us to go back, and I hope that you'll go back and you'll look at the first part of the video that we made about when you get a ticket, so that you'll examine what it is, what happened, and that you'll recognize if you're at fault, you're at fault. Now understand, the system is made for you to lose. If you think it's a fair system, you are mistaken. The police, the district attorney's office, even the judges. I can remember going to Christmas parties with our police association, and the judges would be there, the DAs would be there, the deputy DAs. This is their side. They don't know you, and they believe the police officer or whichever officer, whatever law enforcement officer it is that's written that ticket. You must be persuasive in your argument. So look at your vehicle code. Look at what it was that you got that moving violation for. We'll talk a little bit about, and we're going to get into driving under the influence. At one point, I was a court-recognized expert on being under the influence. And so I can tell you just how that's going to go. We'll have to spend quite a bit of time on if you have a DUI. And let me tell you, this is not legal advice. This is practical advice. When you need a lawyer, get a lawyer. And I'm going to say it over and over, get the very best that you can afford, especially if you were convicted of drunk driving or driving under the influence. You need a lawyer and you want to get the very best you can, or throw yourself on the mercy of the court and let the judge know this is not going to happen again and what you have done so that it's not going to happen again. Now, you've gotten a moving violation. What are you going to do? Well, for one, you're going to look at all that has transpired and see, was I given this moving violation properly? Look at the authorities. What are the authorities? Look at the code. Look at the vehicle code. What did that vehicle code say? And you cannot go into court and say, well, everyone was over the speed limit and I was only 5 miles over the speed limit. You've just admitted guilt. The speed limit is the limit. Do not go in and say that I've exceeded the speed limit. But everybody else did too, so I don't want to be the one caught. That's not a good argument. Think about your arguments. Think about why it is that you were not breaking the law, why it is that you did not violate, why you should not be given that ticket while you are not eligible. Now, if it's just a matter of money and you need to go to the court and ask them, look, I can't pay for this. I want to take care of it. Can I do community service? Or can I do something else in lieu of that? Sometimes they'll offer classes or they'll offer various aspects. So there are things that you might be available to do, it might be available to you so that you can take care of a ticket in another way. And judges will listen to that, and they do pay attention to those sorts of things. Now, I'm speaking from a large metropolis where I worked in a big police agency where there was sheriffs and police, and it was a very busy time. There was a lot of crime going on. So to make a traffic stop took me away from other crimes that were going on. That's why you got a ticket, because you obviously did something that was so stood out, that was dangerous to others, that then I gave you a ticket. So I hope that you're looking at those things. And maybe your situation is, maybe it's a speed trap. And you want to go in and you want to tell the judge, wait a minute, this is a speed trap. By the way, the judge is very aware that that's a speed trap. And it's probably there because people coming through town, they're going too fast, they don't want to slow down. And it's probably there so that you don't want to have to come back. And let me just say that the cities make a huge amount of money on traffic fines. Sometimes it goes to the counties, sometimes it goes to pay for the jails, sometimes it goes to the city municipality, whatever it might be. Sometimes it's going to the state. So it depends on who is writing the ticket and what jurisdiction that's going to fall under. So be aware that you have watched and you're taking care so that you make an exact argument in the court. This is why I am not guilty. This is what the vehicle code says that I was written up for. But that is not the case. Maybe you weren't the driver, or maybe the officer mistook another vehicle and pulled you over. Those things happen. And that is a good argument. I didn't do that. A car that looked similar to mine, maybe the same model, and he saw that one and they were the ones doing it. But it could not possibly have been me for lay out the reasons in logical, exact steps. And show I'm aware of what the surroundings were. I know what was going on around. I knew what was taking place. Lay those things out. As I've said, this is not legal advice. This is practical advice. And you can go online and look at a lot of lawyers. Many, many lawyers will tell you how to beat a ticket. Whether that's true or not, you'll have to determine for yourself. But there is absolutely a time that you need a lawyer. If you have a moving violation for drunk driving, for being under the influence. Now, I'm in California. Now, marijuana has been it's been legalized. In many, many states, it is legalized. But if you are driving too slow, you could be a hindrance to traffic. You could be a possible, you might, just because you're in your own little bubble, in your own little world, you might be a hazard to many, many different people and not even be aware of it. And you're getting a ticket for that. Well, they will do the tests that are necessary to cause that to happen. So look at what is the probable cause. Why did they pull you over? Why did that law enforcement decide you were the one and I'm going to stop this one? There's got to be probable cause. Might be your turn signal wasn't working, the light in the back, or your brake lights. It might be your vehicle is out of the vehicle code, too high. It's jacked up too high, or it's too low. Maybe there's some other violation. You have a broken windshield. You don't have a side view mirror, something like that. That would all give them probable cause. And nowadays, police officers have many things at their hands. There are flashlights that also have alcohol sensors, or will have a sensor for if there's marijuana smoke in the vehicle. So it will tell them and give them sensors that become probable cause to stop you and possibly to search your vehicle. So again, we have to get into the realm of the law. What is the law in your state? What is possible for them to do? So look at those things. Pick it up. You've got to read the vehicle code. You've got to read what that code was that they've written you for a violation. If you get a moving violation for drunkenness, drunk driving, you need the best lawyer you can get, because I tell you, the courts of our land and Mothers Against Drunk Driving have done their job very well, that they are trying to stop drunk drivers. There may be courses that you could take. There may be other things, and the court will mandate that. But you will have a huge expense that you're going to end up having to pay, because otherwise, I had a lot of friends in prison that were there because they had vehicular manslaughter. They were drunk driving, or they were under the influence, and they killed people, and they're doing time in prison even with the lawyers that they could get. So be aware, this is very, very serious. Our courts look at this as a very serious matter because it is such a problem and so pervasive in our society. You've got to watch out. So my practical advice to you is read the vehicle code. See what it is that you did, what they've written you up for. Were you guilty of that? If so, maybe you just want to pay the fine, or you want to go to the court and say, I want to take responsibility, just don't have the money. Or I feel like this was a fine that was not proper. Can we lower it? You can make those appeals to the court. And by taking responsibility and saying, well, I'll do community service. I'll do service here. I'll do whatever I can. I'll take this class or that class. Those things are all showing the right kind of heart, the right kind of spirit. And I've said all of this because the whole purpose for hardtime.info is that we get our minds right. We start recognizing that sometimes these hard things have come into our life. These difficult days have come into our life so that we will change our behavior, so that we will make absolute changes. And of course, I'm a Christian, and I believe that God allows these things to come into our life, these hardships, so that we grow, so that we'll depend on Him, so that we begin to look at Him. I can tell you from personal experience, He knocked me flat to where all I had to do was to look up. I couldn't look anywhere else. There was no hope anywhere else. I hope that that's what you'll do. I hope in a little problem that it will cause you to look up and recognize that our God is a loving God, but He is also a judge and will not acquit the guilty. He doesn't just let us go. And so there's a payment. If you are a child of God, understand, okay, I need to get my mind right. If you're not a child of God, this is your opportunity to ask questions, and we'd be happy to show you how today you can know for certain where your eternal destiny lies. Thanks. Hardtime.info.